Welcome back to this Lenten devotional series based on Mark's Gospel. For day 43, we'll read Mark 15:21 to 24. They compelled a passerby, Simon of Cyrene, who was coming in from the country, the father of Alexander and Rufus, to carry his cross. And they brought him to the place called Golgotha, which means place of a skull. They offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it. And they crucified him and divided his garments among them, casting lots for them to decide what each should take. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Mark doesn't give us many details, especially about the crucifixion itself, but even with few details, there is much here to ponder. For example, he tells us that the soldiers drafted a bystander to carry Jesus' cross. Jesus had begun to carry it himself, but apparently he was so weakened by the beatings that he could not bear its weight. So the soldiers knew that if they were ever to get to the execution place, he would need some help. Mark also tells us the name of the one they drafted, Simon of Cyrene. Cyrene was a city in northern Africa, in modern-day Libya. Simon was likely in Jerusalem for the Passover, and apparently he looked strong enough to take up the load, so they drafted him. Given Mark's sparse details, you have to wonder why he mentioned Simon's two sons, Alexander and Rufus. It could well be that Mark's readers knew one or both of them, and thus this detail would be meaningful for them. And of course, it is not hard to fathom that they would become believers in Jesus themselves, having heard the story from their father. Next, Mark details the place where Jesus was crucified. It was called Golgotha, which was an Aramaic word. Since Mark's readers knew Greek, he translated it for them as the place of the skull. Maybe it described the shape of the execution place, or maybe what took place there. But the people of Jerusalem knew all too well where it was, just outside the city walls. Then Mark tells us when they arrived at Golgotha, they offered Jesus a cup of narcotic to dull the crucifixion pain, but he turned them down. Perhaps he had another cup in mind, the cup he prayed about in the Garden of Gethsemane, the cup of judgment that he was to drink for us all. He refused to dull himself to that purpose. Mark doesn't detail the actual nailing. They knew how it worked. Hands to the horizontal beam and feet to the vertical, and so he was hung up to die slowly. Mark does mention that the soldiers divided his clothes. That was customary. What little the condemned had went to them, and they gambled for the best pieces. And consequently, those crucified were hung up naked, a detail ordinarily obscured for modesty's sake in our art, but one worth meditating upon. The one who bore all of our sin and shame on the cross did so in the very nakedness in which we have shamed ourselves or been shamed by others. One detail that Mark doesn't mention is that the dividing of his clothing by casting lots tracked exactly with an ancient psalm, Psalm 22. And as we'll see in the coming verses, there were a number of Psalm 22 details prophetically fulfilled that day. This was not just another cruel and random Roman crucifixion. This was part of a mysterious plan that had been in the works for centuries, a plan of one so powerful that he could bend even such darkness and evil to serve his good purposes. Here are a couple of questions to ponder as you look back over these verses. Jesus had said both that he would bear the cross for us and that we who follow him must bear a cross too. Simon of Cyrene literally did that. How do we bear a cross for Jesus? And what aspects of this story make you want to avert your eyes? What here do you most need to behold at length? God bless you.